welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. And my name is Faz.
And I'm Rich.
And we are here tonight to clarify things in my mind and potentially,
or in general.
Maybe you're already clear on the said subject.
Oh, it depends what said subject is.
Raiding of tombs, raiding.
Grave robbery.
Yes, grave robbery. Yeah, are you clear on
I
the
like
rules?
it. I think it's good.
The regulations of grave robbery. What was that Simon Pegg film? There was a Simon Pegg film about robbing graves that was recent. I don't know.
I don't know.
When I say recent, I say 15 years ago.
There were kids in secondary school that were born after that film came out.
Oh my god,
that
terrible.
happened to me recently, and I can't remember where it was, but it was the sort of thing where you're just like, oh yeah, that was only a couple of years ago. It was like 15 years ago, and you're just like, oh no. I know how my dad feels.
Decrepit.
Oh, come on. It's my dad you're talking about.
Well, that was his suggestion.
He listens to this.
I know. Well, it was a suggestion. Do you feel decrepit? I don't know. Sorry. I thought that was what you meant by it. I don't know. Maybe he feels, vital.
I mean, if we're grave robbing, do you want a shovel? Keep digging.
Look, he's not my dad. I don't care.
Yeah, well, evidently.
Anyway, yeah, Sonic Boom was on TV before, and that was and I know I've talked about that before on the podcast, but I looked at it, it was Netflix 2014, and I was like, this feels I'm that's 10 years old now, and I only just started watching that 2 years ago, thinking it was brand new, so, that's Prime. Sonic Prime is the newer one, which is a little bit more serious.
Is that like Amazon Prime? Sonic just turns up on your doorstep.
Yeah, oh god, imagine. Stop making a mess, Sonic. Spinning around.
Put some newspaper down first.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
what?
Yeah. Pooing hedgehogs. No, so I know I've mentioned it a couple of times before, the Retro Slice gaming Discord that have joined, and I know some of the guys in the podcast, so did the Sonic 2 speedrun challenge on Emerald Hill Zone 1 recently, and got 22 seconds, which is just quite good. So, not perfect, not world record pace, but
it was a good video though. It was a good smooth run.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
it was all right. And you were right. And I sent you a run earlier when I was on about 25, 26 seconds. And you were like, "No, you need to sort that out, mate.
You can fix that.
You could be better."
I felt like a coach. Weirdly, it was like, have you looked at this bit with the power up? You got to watch that jump. You can shave a second there.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, and to be fair though, you were polite and you were kind and said, "Oh, really well done." But then you were also like, "No, be better."
By the way,
also be better.
Jump a second earlier and you'll be fine.
That was hard, that bit. Do you want to go to a spin? But yeah, fucking love Sonic 2. Right, anyway, where were we? Before I dug my own grave, insulting your dad. I'm really sorry, Mr. Horsfield.
It's done now. We're not editing it. We never edit.
No. I'm not taking it back. I'm just sorry. So
it's good. Shows growth.
Yeah, Tomb Raider. Right, clarity on Tomb Raider. I don't know what's going on in so last week, this week just gone, Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3 have been remastered and released. Correct?
Probably. Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This isn't going to get any more clear than it's just so but it seems like there's been lots of remakes, just in general Tomb Raiders over the years, and that's what I want to bring to the table now at the start.
Right.
We have played some Tomb Raider this week. You've played Tomb Raider 1 and 2?
A bit, yes.
Yes.
Not nearly as much as I wanted, and that is with heavy emphasis. I will come to this. But for now, let's say yes. Okay. And I have played Tomb Raider Legend on the PlayStation Portable, and what did you play? The minimal amount. PS1.
Yeah,
PS1
classics.
Yeah,
cool. And then I played Tomb Raider Anniversary, which was a PlayStation 2 game, but I played the classic HD PS3 version, of Tomb Raider Anniversary. So let's just try and spill this timeline out a little bit, in like, just so I'm clear. There was Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation 1 and PC, I think. I'm just making comments.
Yeah.
And these are...
Do you want me to smile and nod?
But until they're not factual, like, as in, as you definitely know is not a fact, like,
okay.
Nod once for...
Right, okay.
for the
Very aware this is audio
medium.
as well. Yeah. I will say nod.
Say nod. And then there was 3 shit Tomb Raider games.
Nod.
Yeah. Which are like 4... Which was it Last Revelation?
Like Angel of Darkness?
Yeah, Chronicles. And Chronicles, I think it was.
I thought you could say like Chronic Illness or something. Chronicles. Yes, that would make more sense.
They were chronic.
Nod.
That's what happened to, like, Lara got a chronic illness, passed away, got into her own tomb, and had to get out of her own tomb, is what I imagine happened in that middle 3. So that was its own. So that's its own trilogy, and I'm going to refer to it as its own trilogy because I'll come back to that in a second. There was then a rebooting of Tomb Raider. There's also been a couple of side sort of games in Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color,
were they on like iPhone or something?
Yeah, isometric ones. Is
like
it Temple of Osiris?
Yeah.
So, which I think they were quite okay reviewed, but in terms of mainline.
Yeah, okay.
Which is, take that
complicated enough.
Take that with a pinch of salt. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, so you then had on the PlayStation 2, you then got Tomb Raider Legend and the PSP and the Xbox and the Xbox 360. Like, it got and I think the Wii maybe even it got ported.
Probably.
It got ported like everywhere, which. Games used to get ported everywhere, but that felt like a very muddy time of porting. Like, as in, there are lots of different types of consoles that have lots of different abilities, and I found that interesting that was getting hoarded around at the time. But yeah, so that was that. So I know this because I've played it and I've researched it. So that was 2006. Then in 2007, which I believe is 11 years after the first Tomb Raider, I think it was 96.
Yeah,
the first
96, I think.
So, which would have made complete sense if it had been in the slot that was Tomb Raider Legend, that would have been 2006, which would have been 10 years. But no, 11. Right. The 11th year anniversary is Tomb Raider Anniversary, which is not a remaster of Tomb Raider 1, but a remake.
Right.
So basically, they changed some things, which we'll come to later in the podcast. But it is effectively Tomb Raider 1, but they've changed a few bits. And made it and polished it up as well on the PlayStation 2. And then there was on the PlayStation 3, its first iteration of a Tomb Raider game, Tomb Raider Underworld. Then in 2011, they decided to move all of those 3 games, which are called the Legend Trilogy, I believe, to the PlayStation 3
Nod.
HD Classics. By the way, which I'm trying to get behind now because I've got a PlayStation 3 and I like my PlayStation 3 and I see the HD classics floating around and I've got the Tomb Raider one now and I'm like, ooh, 3 games for a tenner and they're all HD. And then I look around and go, oh, there's 3 Splinter Cells, oh, there's Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and stuff. Games that I want to play and never played, and I'm like, I could get them in HD. So they're quite expensive still, but I think they're probably worth it. So I'll probably start bringing them more into my, realm of
gaming diet.
Gaming diet, which is much like my real diet, which currently consists of Sour Patch watermelon. Nice though.
Yeah, Moorish.
Yeah. So then after that, there's a couple of years where there's no Tomb Raiders, and then there is another reboot. Yeah. So we've done 9 Tomb Raider games. We're rebooting again with Tomb Raider, just called Tomb Raider. I think like 2014-ish. Then you get Rise of the Tomb Raider, which sounds like it should be the first game, but anyway, of that trilogy.
Yeah.
And then Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I think it's Shadow.
Yeah, and that's called the Survivor trilogy, which feels very, sort
Destiny's Child.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like that video specifically. And then we've got the remasters of the first games now, which is 2024.
And did I see something that the developers are going to try and, going forward, work out a way of making that Survivor trilogy part of the same timeline as the original trilogy, just to really confuse things?
I don't know.
I
just don't know.
Because everything has to be a connected universe now, and we are long past the point they were cool.
Why? Yeah. But why would you spoon? Why would you do? Can we not just accept that this is
it's a different thing?
This is a really wacky, crazy ass mess.
Yeah. In fairness, the article I saw might have just been pure speculation anyway. But it's the kind of thing that you see it and you're like, I can imagine someone might try and do that. Though.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously some timey-wimey bullshit. You could definitely fit that into Tomb Raider. Just put yourself some sort of Stargate gate somewhere, and then that's it. And then we get to the point where we get to No Way Home, and, there's like 10 Spider-Man, 8 Tomb Raiders, and they're all just copulating, and, anyway.
What world are you living in at the moment?
It's fine. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Peter Parker wouldn't know what to do with that. So... winding back to a point where we can actually sound like we're doing good podcasting again, which would be
April 2023.
Definitely further than 11 minutes ago. I'm going to say that for free. So we've played some games of the Tomb Raider art,
Tomb Raider variety,
and just because, and I guess that I saw this as an opportunity because I think I admitted this on the podcast recently. I've never played any Tomb Raiders before. So this is a good opportunity for me to go, right, okay, let's play some Tomb Raider. A, because we're podcasting now, and B, also because it's kind of like a relevant thing right now. Mm-hmm. Did I go for the remaster of 1, 2, 3? I did not, because I was like, well, actually, I kind of want to probably just play some of the older games kind of originally how they were meant to be, but also with a twist on that as well. Mm-hmm. So, for example, The Legend, I went for the PSP port, which... was not a good idea. and then for Anniversary, I went for the HD port of the reboot, which was a good idea. Thumbs up! So, do you want to start with just pure Tomb Raiding? Just and then we can kind of go a bit timey-wimey, rebooty, wooty.
Booty wooty.
Is that a Destiny's Child song?
May as well be. Right. So, I kind of had a not dissimilar bit of a revelation, I guess, as I was playing through these. So, I, for absolutely frigging ages, was racking my brains because I thought, you know what, I'll focus on Tomb Raider 2. Because I've got some fond memories of that.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. I booted it up and was like, the fuck is this? This is not what I remember. And I realised that all of my memories of Tomb Raider 2 are in fact Tomb Raider 1, and the only bit of Tomb Raider 2 that I have ever played before was the mansion, unlocking the butler in the freezer. Like, literally, the only bit of Tomb Raider 2, having gone back over the last fortnight, that I have played was that one bit of the mansion. Not only that, I have still not played any of Tomb Raider 2 past level 1. I have not been able to complete level 1 of Tomb Raider 2.
So, no, I've already...
So what the hell am I going to talk about for the next however long?
No, not at all, it's fine, it's okay.
Because I've got some notes.
Stop the podcast, yeah. No, that's okay. No. Just, how many people do we think are in the exact same boat in so much that the only part of Tomb Raider they've ever played is the mansion on Tomb Raider 2? It's almost like you went out and bought it and you're like Lara Croft and, oh, this is fun, this bit, just doing...
Yeah, just the tutorial.
Just basically shooting a butler while he's holding the tray up.
When he gets his, stuff
that
on
guy's nails.
Yeah, it really is. So, yeah, Tomb Raider 2 was very trap-heavy from what I played, right? And it seemed to... Because you're in China, to start with, and... compared to Tomb Raider 1, they clearly put in a lot of effort to make the scenery of that first level look impressive and a bit more open than what I saw on Tomb Raider 1. It does chug a little bit, but it looks good. the thing with it was that with Tomb Raider 1, it felt like, the kind of the opening bit, you felt like you were going on an adventure, right? I know it sounds stupid, but like there's a kind of progression, you feel like you are progressing deeper into a place.
Yeah.
A tomb, I suppose, would be sensible. Whereas from what I played of Tomb Raider 2, it escalates very quickly. So like you don't have to go. It's like you're like one level down in the Great Wall of China, and then suddenly you're being like beset by spiked pits and like rolling balls and stuff like that.
Just like some tourists accidentally walked around the wrong corner.
Like, you can imagine that a coach trip would go very badly wrong on Tomb Raider 2.
I almost do think that it probably is kind of like that in,
Lara's just hopped off the coach and like slipped away from the main party. Yeah. Someone's waving an umbrella around, waiting for it to catch up, and she's just fucked off.
There's some like dodgy World War II traps left over from the Chinese that are just like, oh no, like.
Yeah, it's all a bit like, it felt like it was trying to sort of just go, got you, like constantly.
Yeah.
And so you have to, remember that, okay, next time I play it, I go around that corner and this is going to happen. Okay, I've dealt with that. Oh, I've been killed by the next trap. So I need to remember the next one as well. And like, the reason I mention all this is that it is quite fluid compared to Tomb Raider 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can imagine that when you get further into the game and you have memorized it and you are playing through it and it just flows quite nicely, like I can imagine you would feel like an absolute fucking badass just going through and like dodging all these traps and doing all that. However, I did not get to that point.
I'm not one of those badasses.
No, I was getting like they have these tiny little enemy spiders that you kind of look at and can shoot at, but there's no indication that you are locked onto them or anything like that beyond where Lara's pointing her guns and her face. And so you'll shoot away
polygonal face.
Yeah, you might hit them, you might not. And like the spider enemies were just too small for me to do anything with. And even like level 1 of Tomb Raider 2, you've got tigers, and even then you could be away from them and popping away with your guns, and if you're squinting you can kind of see a bit of blood coming out, and that's the only kind of feedback you've got that you're actually doing a combat.
Yeah.
So like it was a bit of an eye-opener. So I was like, okay, cool, this is obviously a bust. Like, I have misjudged this. So Tomb Raider 1 it was. Yeah. And instantly that kind of wave of nostalgia of like, oh, that's the title screen I remember, that's the memory, the menu,
the memory card.
The memory card. The intro sequence with the, falling off of the back of the or doing a backflip or whatever it was off of the big door and shooting all the wolves and seemingly missing all of the wolves a lot. There are a lot of bullets and not many wolves is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fuck knows what she's shooting at. I think she shoots the guide and just pretends it's the wolves that killed him.
Oh no,
like guy. You don't see the wolves maul him. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to use a podcast as a conspiracy thing.
Oh, I do.
I think Lara murdered a guy. But even like going in and doing the slightly different version of the manor in Tomb Raider 1 was like instant nostalgia of like, oh yeah, like I spent ages going around this, and like funnily enough, my wife remembered far more of the Tomb Raider games than I did. But like even just that kind of
Fiona, come on.
I asked, she had things to do. But she said like, like from a character design point of view, like Lara Croft like was basically there from day one. And even just like going into the Croft Manor and hearing like her kind of give you that kind of cheery welcome, kind of like she's very personable. Despite being a murderer.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So
we might disagree on that.
For that first game, bear in mind that you were playing the ones where it was Keely Hawes instead. It was a different person.
Yeah.
But it's, it was the sort of thing of like, well, actually, you're kind of doing a lot of character stuff with relatively little. Like, it's quite economical. However, and there is a big, like, you can see this coming from space, this kind of swerve. I've played 4 levels of Tomb Raider 1.
Yeah. That's a lot, though, is it not? It's not like...
It's a quarter of it.
Yeah, right, okay. I felt like that was a lot of it.
No, it just took a really long time because I'm shit at it.
No, it's fine.
But, like, it was the sort of thing that I massively overestimated the amount of time it would take me to get through any of it, and underestimated how much time I would have to play it. So I really didn't make progress as quickly as I thought I would. And I realised as well that one of the things that I recall from back in the day, because I never had it, I always played it around someone else's house.
Yeah.
They had the PC version.
All right, okay.
And I did some digging, and it turns out that the PC version you can save whenever you like. The PlayStation version, you have like checkpoints and save crystals and stuff like that to use, so you can only save at specific points. And if you've got a level that's kind of more of a, or less of a linear layout, more of a kind of hub setup where you're going off different directions and doing little puzzles and coming back, and you use that save point in the middle too soon, you really screw yourself over.
Right, yeah.
And that is exactly what happened to me on more than one occasion, where I'm like, you would get, however long into solving all these puzzles, and then have a stupid death, and then have to do it all again, and it just drained so much enthusiasm for it. And like the controls, like the thing I've got written at the top here is stiff. It feels very stiff to play.
Yeah.
And
were they? I mean, are they tank control?
Yeah,
Resident Evil
basically.
bad, or
no? I wouldn't necessarily. I started to get on with them.
Yeah.
They were clearly designed for because I think this came out before the DualShock controller had analog sticks.
And quite a long time, probably about 2 years or something.
Tomb Raider came out on the Saturn first, as well.
Wow.
And when you get that in your head, it's like, oh, okay, I see where these controls came from now. Like, it feels like it would lend itself much better to the Saturn's pad.
Oh, that 1996.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I'd played the Saturn version, if I'm being honest, because I would happily bet that I might get the controls a bit more under my thumbs, you know. But like when it started to work and started to click, it made sense. But it did mean that sometimes you were, a wiser person than I online pointed out that it's basically works on a grid system. And when you get that in your head, suddenly it makes a bit more sense. Okay. Where you're like, okay, I could go up to that block. If I press jump and forward, I will jump this far. But if I go back first and do a slightly different jump forward, I can go that much further instead.
Right, okay, yeah, I can see that.
You start to approach it more like a maths problem than anything else. But you've still got to be so precise. Yeah. Like if you're trying to pick anything up. Or like the combat as well. Like it feels clunky, which sounds really harsh, considering the level of ambition they had and what they were able to do. I think it's genuinely impressive what they managed to pull off to this day. Like, and I mean that sincerely.
I want to get onto this as well. Yeah, carry on. Sorry,
but what I do have written here in big letters and underlined is "bears in tight places," because occasionally. You'll go through this underwater bit where like the lighting is lovely and all that kind of stuff. And you pop up the other end, and then suddenly there's a fucking bear in this really tiny enclosed space, and there you are with your guns out, just firing in all different directions, and just like trying to do these acrobatic leaps that she can do, but they're translating to basically just pogoing on the spot and just firing downwards and hoping for the best and all this kind of stuff. And it's things like that where you just have that moment of like, yeah, I bet this was a bit cooler in 1996. But then for every kind of misfire like that, you have these bits where you're fighting a T-Rex or whatever, and it's just like, it throws these things at you relatively early, well, obviously early doors because I've only played 4 levels of it. But, like it's got a strong sense of identity, direction, like the artwork in it is great. Like it's genuinely really impressive to look at for a PS1 game, and the kind of scale of the environments and stuff like that. So like it does a lot right. I quite like the soundtrack as well, such as it is. It's very ambient, and then you'll occasionally have the odd little suitable music sting and stuff like that. But like the collective feel, it is one of exploration. Like it's quite a slow paced game for the most part from the 4 levels I've played. So like it doesn't feel like you're doing the kind of Uncharted swashbuckling thing. Yeah. And it does feel more like you are striking out and exploring. And the reason I bring up that Uncharted comparison is, I played the anniversary HD remaster that you played, but on the Xbox 360 back in the day.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. But mentally, I've always, like, ever since that, I've kind of paired that and Uncharted together.
Mm-hmm.
And with the benefit of hindsight, I wonder if perhaps, and it'll be interesting to hear what you say on this, I wonder if the anniversary version brought in more of that kind of Uncharted, swashbuckling, Indiana Jonesy vibe somehow.
Yeah.
Whereas for this one, because of the limitations, it feels more like you are adventuring, you are exploring, and I think there's something for that, like something to say for that. So yeah, like it genuinely like color me impressed, I guess, from what I've played, and like it'll be frustrating, sure, but like you don't have the kind of, say with the start of the Survivor trilogy, which I've only played the first one of, but you have that kind of weird discord between the character and the fact that she's murdering a load of people, kind of like the Nathan Drake in Uncharted problem. Yeah. Whereas with this, because you, like, I only officially shot one guy, and even then, I think I ended up knocking him out afterwards in a cutscene. But it's like you versus animals and stuff like that a bit more, which I'm not saying, oh yeah, that's so much better, let's go and beat up the animals. But like, you know, it feels more like it's tapping into that kind of wilderness thing. Like there are not many people out here. And well, apart from that guide that I'm pretty sure I shot in a cutscene.
Lara's first confirmed kill. It's like, fuck it. Yeah.
But yeah, like
slow me down anyway.
It's yeah, I was impressed from what I played.
Okay, yeah. So well, I saw a Sour Patch. A couple of bits from that then. A couple of questions from me really. One of them I want to save about Lara as a character, her legacy, what she become. Probably for after I've talked a little bit about the games I played, but certainly at this point, looking at some of the videos and reviews I've seen of the remastered 1, 2, 3 that's just been released last week, there seems to be a switch you can turn on and off, which basically is graphically it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the controls, there's some updated controls. But apart from that, apparently there's no real difference whatsoever from playing the first games. Now, how many people in the world will be playing these remaster games? Loads. Like, isn't it? Everyone will be getting them and playing them and going, oh, great nostalgia. I know you haven't had the chance to do that, but playing the first game now, again, 20 years removed from when it first got released, and obviously a sizable amount of time from when you last played it as well, or will have done probably. Do you think there was any need for a remastered one? If it sounds like there's not been too many upgrades, and did it hurt your eyes so much that you were like, oh god, and were the graphics like terrible, or were the controls that bad that you think that actually it's good for people to have that now?
In theory, I think if you're able to modernize the controls, yeah, I could see the appeal of doing it. Personally, from what I can remember of Anniversary, I would be more tempted to re-release Anniversary and then do the same treatment, like the complete rework.
Yeah.
And then maybe release the original 1, 2, and 3 as like a kind of discounted thing. And so if you wanted to play the originals and their glory, you can. If you want the modern take, you can. Yeah. And I possibly would have kept them separate, because from what I've heard, where they've gone for that kind of halfway house, I think, was it Eurogamer in their review of them, said that what they ended up doing was using the modern controls for certain bits of the game and then switching back to the original controls for doing certain jumps, for example, and judging those distances. In fact, I think it was them that pointed out the grid thing for this exact reason, where they realised that there were certain manoeuvres you could only do on the old controls. Yeah. Because the modern ones wouldn't account for it, and stuff like that.
It was so shit that it had to be done old school.
If you have that, say, that grid system in place, and then you basically just lift and shift it, concessions are going to have to be made. So I think if I was going to put a modern control scheme in, I would be tempted to, modernize all of it like they did for Anniversary. So yeah, I think it's. I see what they were trying to do. I'm I don't think. Well, I could see why a lot of modern audiences would look at the original PS1 version and go, "Oh my god, my eyes!" And like, especially the kind of texture warping and stuff like that you get. Like, there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Even from the small bit that I've played. So yeah, I can kind of see why there would be an impetus to do that. I can also see why, because trilogies seem to pop up so often in the franchise, I could see why they got to the end of the Survivor trilogy and were like, cool, what now?
The next 3
What's
games?
The plan?
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that they took the opportunity to kind of revisit it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, for somebody, I'm not the right person for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, as in, like, for somebody that's never played any Tomb Raider, I'm annoyed about it. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but I'm annoyed because I just feel like, especially from listening to your review, which is kind of what I hoped might happen, was almost, it feels completely pointless. Like, is it not? It just, even after you've just explained it there, it feels like something that if you want to play those originals, like, is in, go back and play the originals. Like,
But how are you going to do that though? Like, on modern systems, like, realistically.
Well, yeah, okay. But I'd rather just they re-release the originals for £3 ago. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think that would make
PS1
sense.
classics on, because I mean they must be sat there. Well, you played them, didn't you? But like, you played on the PlayStation TV, did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Whereas, like, I guess if you went downstairs now and went on the PlayStation 5, for example, that would be like, how much are they going for the shop at the moment? Like, it just feels like, I would have thought, I don't know how much they are in the PlayStation Store, but it feels like it would just be a better solution to me to be able to re-release them.
I don't think they're on there.
Well, which is weird in itself.
It's that kind of thing, but kind of like with the like GTA 3 and Vice City and San Andreas updates they did. Like, there seems to be this kind of drive, makes it sound like everybody's doing it. I don't think they are, but there seems to be a school of thought at the moment that's along the lines of, well, if we're going to put these games on a new system, we may as well take the opportunity to spruce them up a bit somehow without necessarily doing like a kind of floorboards up rework.
I mean, they weren't well reviewed, though, were they? Like,
no.
And I'm not saying this set of games has been not well reviewed, but it's hardly been universally acclaimed either. And then you look at what happened with Metal Gear Solid as well, the Master Collection. Again, everybody's saying that's pointless and been a waste of money. Pretty much, that isn't. I'm putting words in people's mouths, but
I think there's a lot of people that think if you are going to quote unquote remaster them, you may as well go the whole hog and just remake them rather than do a bit of a touch up here and there.
So perfect. The remake then that is and was Anniversary from 2007. So we're talking that it was released on PlayStation 2, PC, 360, and then was polished up in HD for PS3. So I've played both Legend and Anniversary. I'll do Anniversary first, even though it's the second of that trilogy, because we're on that point where I've read that fans of the first games weren't necessarily fans of this game.
Okay.
It was quite well reviewed in general.
Yeah.
But die-hard fans were a bit like, well, they've changed a bit too much. Again, I wouldn't fucking know because I've not played the first ones. Like, as in, I just shot the butler, as everybody else at my friend's house, just like you said. But in terms of, I guess, really how that game felt to me, as a newcomer to the series, it felt great. Like, isn't it? Felt like, just like you were saying about Tomb Raider and how the adventure and stuff. Like, they seem to. And I'm just judging it purely on your review and what I've seen previously of Tomb Raider, known of, bears, wolves, tigers, all that kind of thing, like, environments and stuff. It felt like I was playing Tomb Raider. Like, as in, I was like, there's nothing here that makes me feel like this can be that much different from the first one, in so much that if they've said, oh, this is a remake of the first one, I'm kind of just trusting them that that's the case. But in the HD port, man, it looked good. It just, from a game from 2011 that I've just played, like, this week, I was really enjoying myself. Like, and it is, I'm saying this with hindsight of playing Legend in the same week as well. It is quite bare bones. There's not a lot of Lara, the character, necessarily. I don't think that it's just more of a, she's in it every so often, kind of like a little bit of talking here and there. But actually, like, it is just pretty much you are just raiding tombs. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you versus the environment.
Yeah, yeah, and it looks beautiful, but they keep a lot of key points in there and stuff like the T-Rex battle and things. But they've just, you can see, I went back and watched a video of that, and I remember somebody saying at one point that it's like the way that you look at Tomb Raider, and that part of it was scary, that it was coming out the dark and lurching towards you, like, oh shit, I've got to fight a T-Rex. Whereas in this version, it's a little bit, you don't kind of get that same reveal, and it's coming.
Yeah,
but it's still a great fight, and like it's a bit the quick time sort of events that they've put in. It is, like, is in. I guess that almost feels like. Probably
it was what they were doing at the time.
Yeah, God of War situation kind of thing, and it's just like, we're gonna keep you as the player involved effectively in the part where we would put an FMV. Really, do you know what I mean? Like, we would have traditionally put an FMV. So I didn't mind that so much, really. But yeah, that you've been able to use the analog sticks straight up. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, I'd say that the movement for a 2007 game. Feels quite limited when you're just running around in general. You've just got a general jump forward, jump sideways, etc. But when you're interacting with the environment, when you're sliding down sort of, like shelves of rock, or you can jump onto ropes and you can swing, using sort of like you get, I don't know what it is really. It's just like, like not Indiana Jones's whip, but it's just sort of like
grapple hook.
Yeah, grapple hook. Yeah. Thank you very much. Jesus, the podcast was floundering there. I'm so glad you're here. So for many reasons, but yeah, like it does feel kind of basic, but when you get into the combat and you hold L1 to be able to do all your moves, when you're doing all your jumps and flips from side to side and things, when you're fighting your most basic enemy, your wolves and shit, it's a bit boring. But when you're, trying to outmaneuver the T-Rex, for example, near the start of the game, when you're using those mechanics and using analog sticks, that feels really good. Like, and I feel like, oh wow, like, as in, in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how Tomb Raider was possibly, really progressive at once, and stuff. And then actually listening to you a bit, like, it sounds like it was probably really difficult to do that in the first game.
Yeah,
and there was probably not a lot of it.
Yeah, and like I remember, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think Anniversary doesn't have like a mechanic where time can slow down. You can get like headshots and stuff like that.
No,
I think one of them.
So that is the quick time event sort of thing, yeah.
Oh, right.
Sorry, yeah.
I
was like, no.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, no, I definitely remember doing that to the T-Rex, which I just basically hid in a cave and popped shots at from a much further distance because I knew that my movement would be too wooden to be able to deal with it in the open. So, yeah.
I mean, it is interesting, though, because obviously being I keep on saying it, a newcomer to the series and things, but like it still kind of shocked me that I had just these velociraptors running at me all of a sudden. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what kind of tomb am I in here?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, leave me alone. But then it was as easy as I'll just hop on this rock because they don't jump up at me. Like, and it was just like, right, I'm just gonna literally just keep on tapping my pistols, and I'd picked up some shotgun ammo at that point. And I was like, well, I should have probably found a shotgun somewhere, and I've obviously fucked up. Like I should have really got that. But yeah, it felt really good. Like, and I'm saying that with hindsight again of playing Legend, which I'll come on to in a minute. But yeah, it definitely looked the part as well for that HD port, and yeah, I was suitably, as you were with the original, I guess, really impressed. And now I've heard your review of that, I don't see why there would be so much, I guess from as I've only read, really, that from the die-hard fans, that people would have said, oh, well, it's not proper Tomb Raider, it's not like the first one, and you can't really call it a remake because it's like too far different,
far removed.
Yeah, but I don't know because I've not played the first one.
Well,
but
so the first one doesn't have a grapple hook, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So those mechanics would be different. The whole time slowing down to get headshots was different, and various other Because do I remember like quick time events for like knocking down pillars or something like that, like pushing stuff around?
So that's
that
fair.
kind of stuff would be different.
I get that.
Different actor.
Yeah,
and presumably different dialogue.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, I guess that's probably what you were alluding to before, the unchartedness of it all.
Yeah,
like as in, which I understand, but then even then you think about that. Then I mean, Uncharted came out, what was it, PlayStation 3 era. So whereas these were out PS2 originally, so these actually sort of were forerunners of that. Yeah. So, if anything, Uncharted has sort of, I guess, like dabbled in
Lara's already busted open, like doorways. And, oh, this tomb's already been raided by 2 people. Damn you, Dr. Jones. Etc.
Yeah, just like imagine like Nathan Drake's just stood there. He's like, "Well, where's my grapple hook? Where's my whip?"
What do you mean third?
Yeah, you have need one of those things to get across this gap. It's like, okay.
Who is turning all of these torches on? Oh, okay.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to say is, and this in general, is Lara's grip. My word, like as in like, if you get the old dynamometer, whatever you used to call it, out in the science classroom and tested Lara's grip, it'd be off the fucking scale.
Just
exactly. Like, come on, man. Like, like as in, I know she's good at raiding tombs, but seriously, like,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So yeah. Oh, did you score? Are you scoring? Are you not really? Because you didn't really. You said you didn't play enough of it, or you didn't feel
to be honest with you, I would feel like a right fraud. Like, I would definitely not want to score Tomb Raider 2 because I literally haven't even played a level of it.
I mean, I'm going to be open and honest as well. I played half of Anniversary, so I didn't finish it. Like, I didn't get all the way to the end, but like, I felt like
I can give you a score for what I played of Tomb Raider 1.
I demand arbitrary numbers at all times.
All right.
If that's what you want.
If that's what you want.
Give me what I want.
I mean, I personally, I wouldn't, because it is literally a quarter of it.
Remember, these mean nothing to anybody. Like,
no, I know.
Only me when I go to sleep at night.
All right, I'll give it a 7.
Oh, so good, seeing the numbers.
Jeez, you've got a problem, son.
That's cool. I also was landing around there, but I think I was going to go for an 8. I was having a lot of fun playing Tomb Raider this week.
Fun is the word. Like, from what I remember of Anniversary, to the extent that now that we're talking about it again, I'm really tempted to see if I can pick up a cheap copy somewhere.
Yeah,
because I kind of want to play it again. Like, I do distinctly remember having fun.
So I then demade myself. I went, right, okay, I'm not going to
watch that.
Yeah.
You're admitting that openly?
I was thinking something completely different. So, yeah, no, I'm not going to use it. I demade myself, and I took the PS3 HD collection and went, well, no, we are, at heart, we love playing PSP, PS Vita, or we play on our PSP, PS Vitas.
We endure it.
Because it's the right thing to do. But yeah, so I was like, I'm not going to play, I want to play another one. And I've heard good things about Underworld, but I want to try and play Legend, and I actually own Legend for the PSP, so I'm going to go to my PSP for it.
Right.
And it is notably the worst port of that game from what I've read and also from what I played. It was a pretty shitty port. I had a few problems with the game in general. One of them being that the camera angles for a game that relies upon good jumps and good jumping mechanics and being able to kind of see where you're going.
Kind of a cardinal sin.
Yeah, especially with Lara's newfound sort of like where she sways to try and jump over the gap. I don't remember that from an Anniversary, where it's like you've kind of got to be in rhythm and you've got to wait. Like, as in, you can't kind of... It's not horrendous, don't get me wrong. Like, as in, I've played worse games on the PSP, but for something you have to be so accurate in when you're diving across things... Even in Anniversary, Lara is suicidal as fuck. Like, as in, you know what I mean? Like, as in, you will just literally go, oh, like, who makes a game? I kind of get the whole point of the platforming difficulty comes from pointing your analog stick in the right direction, and then pressing the button at the right time. But then also, it's like, there's either one option: you either make the jump, or you jump the complete opposite direction off a waterfall and break your legs. And it's just like feels extreme. Like
yeah, and like to go back to the PS1 one, like because of the controls and the kind of fudginess of it, like you'd have to, if you wanted to grab a ledge, you'd have to press a different button in the air.
Yeah.
So like there would be so many times where I'd do this kind of weird belly flop thing, and like there was one time where like there was this water current, and I would land in the water and then go like shooting through half the level, have to get out of the water again, go back round to where I was and try to jump again. And like it was frustrating, it was annoying. It felt like it was my problem, not the game's.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't meeting it on its terms, and I wasn't doing what it demanded of me to make that jump happen.
Yes.
And I was just misjudging it and mistiming it, and like you say, not being in the rhythm. That, however, what you're describing there sounds like the game's fault rather than your fault.
Yeah. Well, it was because, as I said, you play Anniversary and you can move the camera angle, so you can like that does not become a problem. I don't want to. It's not necessarily not a stick to beat the PSP with. But if it had a second stick to beat the PSP with, then you wouldn't have to beat the PSP with the second stick, because you would have the second stick to move the fucking camera angle.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense that somebody's just thought, we'll port this and we'll just make it exactly like we've made on the PlayStation 2, but we just don't have a second analog stick to be able to move the camera angle around. And it just kind of it automatically pans it round for you, but it just doesn't move quick enough with the movement of Lara.
Yeah.
In terms of a game, and graphically, you see a bit of a drop off going to the PSP as well. That is it. It just seems to chug and struggle. You know that it's quite a good looking game. It just seems to be that you get a lot of frame rate dropping as you're doing your jumps and things, especially if there's like flowing water underneath you and stuff. Like at one point, it literally looked like the actual waterfall like stopped. Like at the start of the game, and I was like, am I continuing to play this? I'm going to plow through. Other things about this game, it's quite short. I played, again, about 75% of it, which was about 6 hours. Like, which is actually a plus for me. Like, as I've said before, you know, the amount of time I've got in my life to, you know, like try and find for gaming and things. You know, I'm happy with sort of 8 to 10 hour games, and I was quite happy with the length of this. Like, again, I didn't get all the way through it because I had to move on to Anniversary and played other things. But I think that it was probably, if you wanted a well-rounded experience, coming back from, you've just had 6 Tomb Raider games, of which the last 3 have been bad. This is almost like a come back in, here's a short palate cleanser. This is the new Lara. That is in, you know, it's meant to be fun, and I'll get onto that bit in a second. You know, it's quite short, just enjoy it. And I think a lot of people did for what it was. That is in, some people sort of, it's a bit sort of short. I was fine with the length of the game. So the part where it's fun. So I kind of had a bit of fun with this game. It felt completely different from the Anniversary experience that I had, in so much that felt like quite a solitary experience where I was raiding tombs by myself, and it was me against the environment, which is what I've said was a positive of that game.
Yeah. This
felt more like I was playing a bit more of like a time crisis sort of a version of Lara Croft.
Right.
It's Tomb Raider, like, as in, so the villains, of which there are many of them, are really hammy. Like, as in, you're not,
nice.
You know, you're not shooting bears and wolves as much. You're shooting just grunts who are fucking just like, you know, shit, basically. That is in so pointless, and it's just like, you know. But again, very murdery-y.
Yeah.
That is in, you know, you're quite happy just to take them all out.
Uncomfortably murdery.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I haven't played in the Survivor trilogy yet, but I do want to, and I do own to them actually. But yeah, from what you were describing before, it just sounds like she's, you know, just murders people for fun. And this was kind of the same, really. And it's almost like, I don't really know. That didn't feel like when I played Anniversary, I was a bit like, I like the solitary confinement fighting against animals than I do, you know, just shooting random grunts who are a bit shit at their job. You know what I mean? Like, and then also, like I said, the main villains are just a bit more like, ha 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 ha, ha, Lara Croft, I see. And you're like, you're like, oh, what? Like, here's a helicopter, fuck you. And you're like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, I came to find an artifact, and now I'm getting like my face blown off by this Apache. I don't understand. Like the setup for the story. So this is meant to be a prequel to all Tomb Raiders,
Right.
being the 10th game of Tomb Raider. And you start off the opening stories like you're on a plane with your mum and you crash in, I think it's Peruvian, and but like, oh my god, it's so like upper class English that is in, Mama, are we going down? And it's like, hold on, Lara, love. And I'm like, oh god, oh, I hate you so much. I hate you so much. That is in, I presume, and her mum turns to dust. Like, when she touches his artifact, and you're like, I presume that happened because she's such a wanker. Like, is in like, just, and then after that, like, just. So this is where I was going to come back to a point at the start of the podcast, or like when you were talking about Lara as a character and things. You were saying she's quite genial, and it's quite nice to spend time with her in the mansion. In this game, I found her insufferable. Like, and the side characters, of which she has an English and American sort of chap, like two guys kind of directing her from Croft Manor, like with just little tidbits, just basically trying to like basically find as many times as you can use Keely Hawes' voice as possible.
Yeah.
But that was so jarring for me, that is, and I was like, no, again, you look at Anniversary, where there's not a lot of dialogue at all, it's like, right, okay, this makes complete sense to me, whereas that in Legend, it was just like, just quips all the time, and, like, and this will bring me on to a bigger point of Lara Croft. She's so genetically well endowed and so rich. Like, I fucking hate her, and I hate everything she stands for, and I wish every bear would just maul her to bits. Like, as in, like, I do not get the Lara Croft obsession, and that's probably why I've never played a Tomb Raider game before.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't get it. I mean, like, okay, how do I say this without being crass? I get that she is a very attractive female, and I get that she is also a very strong, empowered female character, of which there probably wasn't that many in gaming at that point.
No.
But even above those points, that I just don't get it. I don't know how she transcended from Tomb Raider into Lara Croft, and this game like just wound me up immediately when it was like starring Lara Croft. I'm like, how is this starring Lara Croft? Like, she's a fucking game character. Like, oh my god, I just didn't understand it. It felt so Hollywood, and so like, oh, Lara's back. Everyone fucking get on your jolly cycles, and whatever a jolly cycle is.
What is a jolly cycle?
I'm so angry. That said, I didn't hate the game. There's so many things about the Tomb Raider franchise, it seems, that I've just had pent up inside me that I didn't realise until I played a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah.
That just it made me really angry about it.
I feel like we've gone on a journey.
Yeah. Which is quite Tomb Raider-esque.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I'd played this on the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3, I probably would have had a better time with it. It definitely is janky on the PSP. That said, it wasn't the worst game I've ever played either. That is in, and stood up against Anniversary. I thought Anniversary was significantly better, but this wasn't that bad. So on the PSP, it's a 5 out of 10 for me. And yeah, I've played worse PSP games, but I didn't realise that Lara was just, I don't know, a big thing for me. I don't know how you feel about my little outburst.
I mean, I'm weirdly indifferent. So like, I think having played a bit of the first one, I think I can kind of see why. Well, yeah, my wife pointed out that, like, she is a strong female character. Like, she's just getting on with the job and doing stuff that she wants to do and all that kind of thing. I think it's helped by the fact that the character work in the first game is quite light, so you can infer things. Part of the stuff with the manor is like, sure, like, she's living in a big house and all that, but like, it's the tutorial as well, and she's kind of talking you through it. But there'll be she'll go and talk you through how to do the tumbling and stuff like that, but then you'll have these throwaway details. So like, her hallway will just have a load of crates in it, and she'll just be like, yeah, I was trying to move some stuff out, but the movers have had to reschedule or whatever. And it's just those little throwaway details where it's like, okay, sure, I get that you're living a completely different world to me, but like there's just something personal about it, which I think carries it a long way. As for the whole, starring Lara Croft thing, like I think that goes all the way back. I think they did that deliberately, and I think it's deliberately to tap into the kind of cinematic, this is the kind of Hollywood-esque experience video gaming can bring you now. And I think if you, again, to go back to the kind of Uncharted nods and stuff like that, the Uncharted definitely did the whole cinematic gameplay thing. I would argue that, Tomb Raider was probably one of the pioneers of that kind of approach. As for Lara Croft, the character, I completely appreciate that there will be various versions of her that people aren't huge fans of. Like, I was never a huge fan of the version in Survivor trilogy, not for any particular reason other than the whole like discord between being the victim and you investing emotionally and feeling sympathy for her, and then very quickly it's like a switch flicks, and she's seemingly okay with murder, and all that kind of stuff, and it never really feels like it's kind of an adequate payoff. And it's not like she does a kind of Joker-esque, like suddenly very psychotic kind of turn or anything like that. So like it always feels like they have tried to lend depth to her as a character with varying degrees of success. And weirdly, I think she works best when she says the least. And that is not a, God, would you shut up, Lara? That is like, because of the game she's in, you can do so much with the animations, the movements, the situations. Well, it's a very physical character, and I know that's crass for a video game character that was literally in Playboy magazine, lest we forget. But it was that era where they were trying to show that video gaming was growing up, and I mean, sure, that's another way of doing it. And like anybody that would look at the character models would go like, that is not the real shape of a woman at all. But nonetheless, I think that there is something to be said for taking that kind of almost like the silent movies and stuff like that kind of physical approach, and the kind of characters that were able to fill that space.
But that was the part of the character I had more time for. Like you say, like isn't that's the strong female character, the one that has the grip of a fucking iron giant,
that's quite happy to shoot a T-Rex in the face.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the bit I was like, this is badass. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, but when they were introducing other bits in the game where it's just like they're quippy and sort of like, like as in like, and then
I think it's a swing and a miss.
And and like I said, I'm probably really badly. Well, probably I am badly placed because I have not played the rest of the franchise, and it's easy for me to sit and say, certain things from a point of view from somebody that might have played all, however many, 12, 15, whatever the fuck it is, like it's in. But it just, you get a vibe and a feel for something, and it's never really been something where I'm like, if you said to me, and do you want to play as Nathan Drake or do you want to play as Lara Croft? Do you know what I mean? Or do you want to play as Indiana Jones? That is in, like, I think Lara would always be sort of like where I'm like, I've never felt that fussed about it, and I feel like it's just something tapped into that where I'm like, whatever it is around, whilst you've given good reasons for it, say, the star and Lara Croft, the Hollywood feel of it and stuff, it's never felt like really good to me. Like, I never felt like I wanted to be part of it because of that. So
that's fair enough. And like, as a kind of closing remark, I guess, seeing the time, like, I think what playing these games has shown me is how wrong I was to compare her directly to Nathan Drake and and her games to the Uncharted games and stuff like that. Playing these PS1 originals has really helped me realize why she's different to Nathan Drake and Indiana Jones, and I think there's some value in that.
All right, okay. Well, yeah, I probably just need to, I need to think about where I go with Tomb Raider next. I think I'll probably go for the Survivor series. So I keep calling it Survivor series, Survivor trilogy. I'm speaking about. I'm so livid. I don't know what about even. I need to go and have a word with myself. Just try something a little bit different. But I mean, see if I can get on with Lara at some point,
or a version of her.
Temple of Osiris. Here we go. All right, guys. Right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Cheers.
All right.